to show you guys. We've launched a lot of big features and small ones, and I'll walk you through them today. The first thing I'll start with is the dashboard, because now you might notice after you log in, there is a completely new page, landing page for TruMarket, and it's called the dashboard. So the first thing, the reason why we built the dashboard is because for many reasons. One of them is we wanted you to come in here and you find a summary for everything that's happening in your account. And when I say everything that's happening in your account, that includes requests assigned to you. So you will quickly find here a tab called My Requests. So these are only requests assigned to you, not every request in the system. And second, you will find another tab called Follow-up Activities. We'll get to it in a minute. And then you will see recent activities here on the right side. And then at the top, you will find a quick summary of how many activities and how many requests you have going, plus a quick shortcut here for you to add a client or add a request if you need to. In this summary here, you will be able to quickly see what are the requests assigned to you, which client, what's the status, and then you can click on it and go inside the request to work on it right away. You can also refresh the page here. So you don't need to refresh the whole page, but if you wanted to see if any new requests came in recently, you can basically hit that icon and it will refresh the list for you. In the next release, which we're currently working on, this page will even refresh automatically. As soon as a request comes in assigned to you, you will find the page refreshing and requests are being updated right away. You don't even need to click that refresh icon here. If you click on the follow-up activities, which is one of the main reasons we added the dashboard, is because now you have follow-up activities with reminder dates or due on dates, and then they will be showing here with a status of whether it's completed task or if it's overdue task. It will be red like this. You can see everything going on from those follow-up activities on that screen as well. So that way the dashboard acts as a nice summary or overview page for everything going in your account. You can also click on that icon here and then change the status of the follow-up activities to done, for example, and that way it will be marked as done. Or if you click on the activity itself, it takes you into the activity page where now you're inside the client file and you can see everything going on the client file and request and do more investigation if needed. That's about the dashboard. Also here on the right side, if you clicked on any of these activities, it will have the same effect where it will take you again to the activities page and you can read more about it. Yeah, so that's everything we added recently on the dashboard. The next thing I want to show you as well is if you go to the requests page now, you will notice that you can, first thing, you can reassign the request from here. If you click on this drop down and then you start typing the name of the user that you want to reassign it to, you can reassign it to a different user from there. You don't have to go inside the request to reassign it. And then you might notice now on all the avatars for the users, there is this green check mark that's added, which indicates their presence online. So are they online or offline? That's again one of the nice additions we added recently. And for you as a user, you can change your presence by clicking on your green check mark on your profile page and you go status. Then you can put yourself online or offline. And this is now will be considered you manually overriding what's the system automatically deciding for you, because you might want to be logged in, but you don't want to get any more work assigned to you. You don't want anyone to assign more work. You just need to finish whatever is in your queue so you can put yourself offline while you're still working on the system. Once you finish, you can go back and then put yourself again as online, or I prefer to just click reset status. And by clicking resetting status, you're basically leaving it to the system to decide for you if you're online or offline. And basically right now, it's very simple. If you're logged in, you're online. If you're logged out, you will be offline. And then next releases, we might think about adding more intelligence by detecting also different statuses like away if you're idle, so you're logged in, but you're not really working on the system or active system, it might change to idle. The other reason why we added this online, offline status for all the users, which you can also see it for all other users on the platform who's online and who's offline, is the other new feature that we added, which is the distribution queues. So the distribution queues is another big feature that we added. You can access it from the configuration screen here, only if you have access to it. So distribution queues will not be visible to everyone. It will only be visible to the users who have access to this feature. And usually it will be an admin or a manager that will have access to this. So what are distribution queues? Distribution queues basically is an automated way for the brokerage or the tenant to automatically assign leads as they come in or request any request as they come in to a pool of staff without having to manually do what I just did and go and assign the request to individual users. And the way to do this is you click on new queue. And then here you get to select the criteria that you want the queue to use for distribution. For example, here, I'll do an example of my home and auto sales, right? And the way I want this to work is I'll choose a distribution method and I'll choose round robin, for example. So we support 3 distribution methods right now. Round robin is the simplest and easiest, which is goes in a round fashion, assigns one lead or one request for each user and keeps going again and again in circles. Weighted load is more based on the load of the work you have, but based also on the status of the request. So the way it works is we assign weights for each status that this request goes through. And this weight is assigned during the implementation. So this is something the business will agree on with the implementation. An example of this would be when a new request comes in and the request is waiting for the broker to pick it up and contact the client, most likely the weight needs to be high. For example, 80% of the work is in that phase. And then still after the broker picks up the code and contacts the client, they still need to code them. So the weight could still be something as high as 80% or 70% on the broker. It needs a lot of engagement from the broker. But then once the code goes out and then you're waiting on the feedback from the client, or once you send the e-documents or e-signatures to the client, the weight could go low again, like 10% is needs engagement and follow-up from the broker. And then we use all these weights to calculate a total score of the workload on that broker. For example, if you have 5 requests on your queue and all of them are waiting on different clients to sign the documents, you might not be as busy as a broker who maybe only having 2 or 3 requests on their queue, but all of them are waiting on the broker to give quotes to the client. So you will be getting more quotes in that scenario, the broker who has 5 requests waiting on client's signature, than the broker who has only 2 requests waiting on, pending coding, or they need to work on giving quotes to the client. So that's the concept of weighted load. It it favors more the brokers who has less workload. The count load is similar, but doesn't really go into that sophistication of weights for each status. It's basically based on the count, how many requests you have assigned to you, and then it will favor the broker that has the least count. It will assign the work for them. We have added support for these 3 methods because we know that each brokerage operates differently and each one of them might want to choose something different for different operations. For example, for sales, they might prefer the weighted load, but for client service and handling change requests or claims, they might want to go with a round robin fashion. So choose whatever method you want here. And then here you choose the request type that you want this to apply to, because TruMarket can handle different types of requests, cyber, home and auto, whatever. So in this case, I want to choose my home and auto request. So I'll just search for the home and auto request, select it from here. The second thing in the criteria is you can select also the status. Where in the process do you want this automatic distribution to happen? Because not necessarily you don't want it to happen as early as new, because again, in some situations, this could be the client is still filling the online form, and it could be too early to assign the request to the broker, and they will be contacting the client while they are halfway through the form. So you might say, I might want this distribution to happen at the coding stage, because they will be getting codes online. And then after they get codes online, this is where I want to engage a broker. The other use case for this is you might have your process split into half. So you might have the first half of the process where from new all the way to coded, it's handled by someone from the sales team, but also you have another team for processing or auditing. And you want to have another distribution algorithm or another distribution queue happening for that team as well. So maybe you want, after the request goes into coded, I want to do another distribution to my processing team to take care of the auditing of the request and the binding and issuance of the policy. So there are different cases where you can use the apply on request status. In that case, maybe I'll just have it start at new. And then here, you get to choose the teams where you can assign these requests to. And this could be a combination of more than one team. It doesn't have to be an individual team. For example, I can assign it to my TruFlow admins, and I can assign it to front end staff, for example. And you might notice as soon as I selected teams here, it disabled the users for me, because you can only configure one of them. You cannot have both of them together. So what's the difference between request restricted teams or users? Here you can select the teams, which is a group of users already, a predefined group of users that was already set from the central admin for you. And what will happen is it will take an aggregate of all the users inside both teams, and then it will run the distribution algorithm on both of them. Or if this is, for example, a niche type of a request that you don't have a dedicated team for it, and you have specific users on hand that you want to assign it to, you can select the users individually, and then you can have a group of users where the distribution algorithm runs over. So you have the flexibility to choose either teams or users. And then other optional setting you can put here is a maximum load. So I always think of the maximum load as a fail safe, and it's optional. You don't have to set it, but it's basically the count or the number of leads, the maximum number of requests that each individual user could get. And this is, for example, could be because as a brokerage, for example, that you're getting a lot of online leads, you're getting 200 a day, and you're understaffed. You only have 5 working today. And no matter how efficient they are, you know that each of them can handle maximum 20 a day, for example. So you might want to put 20 here, because what will happen is each of them will get 20. So 20 times 5 staff will be 100 requests. And the remaining 100 requests from the 200 you get online will remain in the queue, idle, waiting for any of them to finish. This could be today or tomorrow. Like, they don't have to finish today, but as soon as they finish, or even more, it could be more staff coming online again tomorrow, and they will take those idle leads. This I find it handy because if you set it this way, you as a manager of the brokerage can save yourself from not setting it at all. So if you didn't set it at all and you left it blank, the 200 leads will keep getting assigned to all the 5 staff in your brokerage today. And then tomorrow, if you might have more staff coming online, you as a manager will have to go in manually and then take some of that extra load of the brokers who were working yesterday, the 5 staff who were working yesterday, because now if it's round robin, each of them will get assigned 40 requests. You will have to manually go in and take some of that load and reassign it to different users, which might not be so pleasant for you as a manager, because you might have to do this over 60 leads or 100 leads. So setting a fail-safe maximum load could also protect you from that, because the extra leads will remain in the idle queue, and then as soon as brokers start finishing their load, they will get assigned new requests. And the last thing here in the settings is if you want to honor the online offline status of the users. So you might want to say, I want these requests to only get assigned to my users who are currently online. Or if this is a distribution queues that works during the weekend and you're getting leads during the weekend, you might not want to set this and then leave it empty, and then it will select or assign for everything, whether you're online or offline. And then once you finish all this, you click add, and then it will save the distribution queue. Now, this is a good, interesting validation here that we've added. I know it came up quick, but basically what it says is these users, some of these users do not have access to that request. Hence, it's not allowing you to create a distribution method, which is a very good validation, because you don't want to create all this distribution thinking that it will work out of the box while these users or any of them doesn't have access to that request itself. So we'll do this validation early on. Let me now assign a team instead, and there is another validation I want to show you. Hopefully I can trigger it. Okay, you couldn't trigger it. So it added the request successfully. Let me try a different team. Maybe I can. There you go. No, that's the same validation. Anyways, the other validation that happens is if you have a distribution queue with the same exact criteria, it will give you a validation error, basically telling you there is a pre-existing queue with the same criteria. And the benefit of this is it will avoid you from creating multiple distribution queues that has the same criteria for distribution, which will make it overlap over each other. And you will be spinning in circles trying to figure out why this lead got assigned to this user. And then you might go back and say, okay, no, this is not what I want. And then you disable this queue, yet it will still keep happening. And then you have to go through all the queues you have set up and then try to figure out why this is happening. So if we found you have similar criterias set up in different queues previously, we will show you a validation before you even save, and we'll tell you have another queue with the same criteria. So that's everything about the distribution queues. It should be this kind of feature where you set it and forget it, and then after you set them, all the requests coming in, you will find they get automatically assigned. Now, the last big features we've added that I'll try to go quickly through for the sake of time here is the follow-up activities. So I showed you that you can see a summary of the follow-up activities here, but where did they come from, or how do I create them? So if you go to any client file here, or from inside a request, and you go to activities, and you try to record an activity, you will find we've added extra 2 fields here where it's a due date and assigned to. So I'll write anything here. So reminder to call client next week. And then I'll select the due date. And then I can even select a time, exact time for that activity. So I want to call the client next week. So it has to be September 2nd. And I want to call them at almost 11 in the morning. And then as soon as I selected the due date, you'll notice that the assign to is not optional anymore. You have to set an assign you in that feature. So I can assign someone else, or I can assign myself, and then I'll click add, and then now that becomes a follow-up activity. As soon as I put the due date and the assignee, if I go on the dashboard here under follow-up activities, now I can see it. Now it's great because it's still a coming up, a future activity. It's not overdue yet, but I can click on it again, and then I can change the status to in progress or done. You might notice in the overdue activity, I didn't have the option of in progress. I could have just put it in done only. But here, because this is a future activity, I can put it in progress, or I can put it back again to not start it.